You're listening to a lifestyle podcast with Lovoni and Sarah. Our goals: to inspire good health and well-being, empowerment, beauty and joy, offering support and friendship as we share our journeys in the hopes it helps you. Hello my friends, and thanks for tuning in to what was once the Waiting Room podcast. I'm Lovoni, and together with my co-host Sarah, we want to let you know our podcast has changed its name from the Waiting Room podcast to simply Lovoni and Sarah. Now, along with the name change, we're doing some rebranding and developing a website, all very exciting, and we'd love you to come along on this adventure with us.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Waiting Room podcast. I'm Sarah, and this week my co-host Lovoni and I are talking about parenting and how to prioritise yourself and your own health when you're so busy taking care of everyone else and other obligations. You feel as though you're not only being pulled in multiple directions, but you just don't seem to have time for you. But first, let's catch up on last week's goals. Lovoni, what was yours? Remind me.
Well, mine's going to be like a month goal. Sarah thinks this is so funny. She thinks I won't have anything left in my house. So what I've done is I've taken, and it's probably a good thing it's just February that I'm doing this in. So I wrote the numbers 1 to 25 down on a piece of paper, cut it up, folded them up, threw them in a jar, and every day I pick one out. And because last week, if you hadn't tuned into last week, the podcast was about decluttering, paring down, simplifying, just getting all that shit out of your life, to give you sort of a clear head, and it's working. But so I put the numbers into a jar, and each day I pick one out, and the corresponding number I have to throw the corresponding amount of things out, or throw them out, or donate, or I have to remember this morning to drop the stuff off because I've got bags of clothes and coats and stuff in the back of my car, and I'm going to pick groceries up for a photo shoot. So if I forget to drop them off on the way, yes, that's going to be interesting. But anyway, so I've been doing this for a week now, and every day I've drawn out like a high number. I'm like, oh, come on. But it's so good. Like, I feel really good because they're things that I have looked at and thought, I'll use them one day. Like, do you remember, I don't know, we always had, when I was a kid, those wooden bowls that you put, Mum would make a salad, and then you'd put the salad into smaller wooden bowls. Well, I've had a set of those, like, God knows where, at some bloody junk sale or something that I went to. Sorry, I just had a weird message about charging this. Hopefully my phone doesn't die. Anyway, so those. I've had those thinking, I'll use them for a photo shoot for something. So, they went. Just things that either didn't serve me, I didn't love, I didn't use, or that had some great sentimental value. One of the things, I go through my cookbooks on a regular basis because I've got a ton of them. And one of them I pulled out, and inside was a message from my mum from 1994 when I graduated culinary school, saying, she was proud of me and congratulations and da-da-da. And it was a book on herbs and spices. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's staying. But, it feels, I don't know, you do feel lighter. People say that, but you feel lighter. It's amazing.
And it's so, and it genuinely makes everything easier, doesn't it? Because it's just organised. We've got a system. It's just,
I know.
It's quite incredible.
And then when I open a cupboard that I've done that in, because that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm either grabbing stuff I know that I want to get rid of, or I've like hummed and hard about it for ages, or I open a cupboard and clean it out, and I forget, and I'll open a cupboard, and this feeling of just like serenity joy washes over me when I open it. It's so nice. So
that joy does spread, because where I told you last week I've done my kitchen cupboards,
right,
or at least 2 of them. My son went to go and get a bottle out of one of the cupboards yesterday, and he went, "Oh, Mum, I do love these whirligig things." Like, I put Lady Buttons in there. He said, "It just looks so much. It's so much easier, and I can get to it." I was like,
"Oh, that's good."
he's finding the joy from my tidying
Oh, that's
up as
good.
well.
Wow. Well, I would highly recommend anybody that's finding it hard to get started on that journey to do what I did and write down a number from 1 to 30 or 1 to 31, whatever the month is.
I think I might do it next month. So I'm still doing mine now, but not to that
right.
I think
it forces you to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought if I can just do the things sort of a bit piecemeal, like I'm doing,
right,
it feels great. And then because I'm really, really busy with my work as well at the moment, so I think from next month, which it'll still be busy, but in a slightly different way, then I can give myself a bit of time every day.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's just dedicating a bit of time, and it doesn't have to be a lot of time. I mean, I think I spent 20 minutes yesterday cleaning out a particular cupboard and got rid of a whole lot of stuff. But it's
but on
really
that
good
note,
feeling.
last week one of my goals, or one of my situation was, well, it wasn't my main goal, but if we remember, we talked about my ironing.
Oh, the pile.
Bed.
Yes.
And as well as keeping up to date with everything that I'm doing each day, I was then trying to work through 10 things from this pile. I have news. I can now see bare bed.
Good for you. Wow.
I still have piles of things which are ready to be used or to be put away or stuff like that. But the actual pile of clothes that had never been looked at since about August.
Wow.
That needed folding. Because what happened, they all got washed before my surgery, which was the 13th of September. They went in a big old pile. Then they got moved because my mum stayed in that room, and then they got put back on that bed again. And so it's just, it's just sort of grown. So I swear, I kid you not, I was ironing and putting away summer sort of dresses that were my summer costume dresses from my holiday in August. So anyway,
that has to make you feel good doing that.
Yeah, and I just did 10 things a day. Put them all away. So now all that's in there is the baskets that I talked about last week and some piles of clothes that are my son's that I need to go. But before I can put those away, we've got another job. This is the thing. There's a
I know, right? Yeah.
I need him to pull out all of his drawers. I'll do it with him.
Go through stuff.
What's staying, what's keeping, and then I can put stuff away because there's just not room at the moment. So that's a task for another day. But my goal last week was basically still decluttering and clearing and main focus on my office. My office is not done, but what I have managed to do is at the weekend we got some electricals and big boxes and things taken to the local recycling centre. So that's created loads of space already.
It's amazing how much of that, like cables and crap like that that you collect.
Just stuff like that. But what I have been doing is some small and frequent decluttering. So yesterday, 5 minutes while I was waiting for the kettle to boil, I pulled out I've got some little drawers with bobble hats, scarves and gloves independently in. Pulled them all out, and normally I'm ramming one in to the top to get in there. And I was quite ruthless. I was like, oh, but I love this one. I said, no, you've just got to basically...
Do I wear it?
How many bobble hats do I actually need? How many beanies does my son need? So I just kept, like one, maybe two, if there was two favourites of the bobble hat.
Oh, good for you.
Back into the space, put them all in a bag. Haven't taken those to the recycling yet because my local recycling centre shuts on a Thursday and a Friday, so that's helpful. Oh. But anyway, so yes, I've done well with my goal. I haven't finished my office, but it is in progress. So.
And do you feel lighter? I feel lighter. And
I love being so tidy and all.
Right.
And you can genuinely find things. So I know now when my son says, where's my, because that's what they always do.
Right.
I can go top of that drawer.
Right.
I know where it is.
Yeah.
I've just put it away and it's clear. And I'm like, oh, was it in that drawer? Because it was so rammed in. I don't know. But anyway, as we said last week, it definitely brings you mental space.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And, that system.
Clarity.
So easily.
Yeah.
Actually, leading into parenting, that's
exactly what I was about to say. That
exactly
the where is.
Yeah, because it's always not just your day, always. So particularly, I don't know, there's lots of parenting styles, and I'm certainly not going to blanket this for everybody because there is no right and there is no wrong. All we're all trying to do is do the best we can and get through the day.
That's what my mum used to say. I just try and do the best I can.
It's never going to be right, and I'm pretty sure that every generation will always criticise the parenting of, the one before, and then they'll say, well, I'm going to do that differently, and then they're, the next generation, so their children or whatever might then go, yeah, but I'm not going to do it that way. It'll just keep going in full circles.
Right.
Anyway, we're doing the best we can, and I cope or manage or succeed. Actually,
that's
I like
good.
to succeed. because I've been on my own with my son since he was 3, and I'm on my own, I've said about this before, but I don't see myself as a single parent. I'm just a solo parent at home because my ex-husband and I divorced amicably. We co-parent in as far as we make joint decisions, which are the big decisions. I'll go on to talk about that in a minute. We share, we've shared all of the big events in his life. We've been to all of the primary school things together. We are a family still. We're just a family that are living apart. We're no longer married. We're not in a relationship in any way. But actually there's, we've got that shared situation where
right.
we both love the son. We both equally love him. We're sharing that raising of him. So I'm not a single parent. I'm solo parenting at home.
Right.
However, what that delivers or gives you as a challenge is, yes, my ex-husband and I share all of big decisions together, obviously, because it's about my son's future. How many decisions on a daily basis are there to be made that clearly are not a shared decision? You just have to make them and get them done. Now, this is not anything to do with solo parenting. I'm sure it's every single parent that just in that moment are, like, oh my God, I've got to decide now. Probably a little bit more so with just being on your own at home because you don't have anyone to bounce that off. You've just got to make that decision, get onto it. But it's things like, return slip has to be in today when he was at primary school, or can he go, or he's been invited to 3 things. Which one am I going to make that decision of? It's a mental load, actually, that's never really recognised. And it's the things that happen that are not even thought about. So it's for yourself, but when you're parenting or you've got a busy home, whether it's elderly parents staying with you, anyone, I actually would say for this episode, it's not parenting as such, it's anyone that you're
a dependent
on.
Right.
Even to some extent a husband or a partner,
right.
because it's not unheard of that they also just allow that things to happen behind the scenes that they don't even think about. It's things like that, isn't it? But I think that one of the ways I've succeeded is to be ahead of the game all the time as much as I can. So it's particularly with running my own business, I was mega busy, making sure that his school stuff was sorted, the dogs were looked after, my business was running okay. And at that point, I was really trying to launch it all. So I was working until midnight most nights. It wasn't unheard of that I was doing that, but it meant that he was still of an age that he needed to be bathed and put to bed. So I sort of stopped at too late sometimes. It was a panic. I'm like, oh my God, it's 7:00 and I've not fed the boy and he needs to have a bath. And it was just like this.
Right.
But what I would do is then stop at 6, hopefully, do the dinner, do the bath, get him off to bed. He wasn't brilliant at going to sleep, but once he went to sleep, he was really good at staying asleep, and then go back to work and work until 12, whatever time it needed to be to get it finished. But the way that I succeeded on that was to plan ahead as much as possible.
Right.
So it's things like, it feeds really well into the decluttering. It's a case of having the space to think about, right, he's got his breakfast sorted, now I can go and do that. So there's lots of pushback on me going, why wasn't he making his own breakfast? And still to this day, I still do too much for him. I know I do.
Right.
But the way that it's because I coped was to say, I know that that's done. I know that he's had
tick that off the list.
Sorted. So I can do it probably 3 times as quickly,
right,
as not worrying about it. And what I probably should have done is gone through the pain and the extra time there and then to make sure that he's got it all sorted. He knows how to do it. He'd then get into a routine. I wouldn't have had to thought about it. He clearly knows how to do it. Kids in general, particularly boys, are just lazy. So, that's fine. And each one of them needs a kick and a push to do something. But so that's how I succeeded to get everything done, was to be prepared, to do it early, to do it myself, whiz around like a maniac half the time to get it done. But I knew it was all done because I wanted him, and I made life harder for myself. He had a clean set of uniform that was ironed every single day.
Right.
So every day he went to primary school or secondary school to that point with clean clothes on every single day, because I was like, no, that's how you present yourself.
Right.
But I didn't pay for 7 outfits or five complete outfits that I washed on a Sunday and then had them ready. I probably had 2, maybe 3, but I had to keep washing, rotating and getting ironed during the week.
Right.
Because obviously uniform is a massive cost. So it was, the best way of doing it. And then, things come along like sport. And I love the fact that he's sporty. But all of a sudden, twice a week, you've got...
Now you've got to take him to things.
Rugby kit. You've got to take him there. And then you've got rugby or football kit coming home that needs to be washed. But actually, he needs it for PE the next day. And you're like, holy shit. Right, okay. Get that in the washing machine at 9 o'clock at night. Get it on the radiators so it's dry for the next morning. And so I think... Clearly, it's all doable. I have done it. Millions of parents do it. But what you don't understand or don't give credit for, I think, is that mental load that's on you all the time.
Right.
Because it's constantly churning in the background.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
Uh-huh.
It is exhausting because, of course, that's just one layer. That's just the practical layer, isn't it?
And then you add to it, if you're someone that if they're tuning in, that they want to get healthy, want to lose weight, then where do you fit yourself into the whole thing? I mean, my days from the moment I get up to the moment I go to bed are crazy busy, and I have to make a disclaimer here by saying I don't actually, well, I shouldn't say I don't have children because I have 4 stepchildren, but they're all adults and they're all, great humans and they take care of themselves. But, so, I didn't raise little kids. I've certainly looked after them before. And I just think, I don't know how people do it. How do you fit yourself into that whole mix of things? And I guess, maybe if people are listening, they're like, okay, well, tell us. That's what we're listening for.
Yeah.
And I think, like, approaching this as someone that doesn't have kids, breaking it down to small blocks of time. Like you were saying, you get them fed or whatever, or they're at a sporting event or practicing a sport practice. Maybe that's a good time to take yourself for a walk, or if you've got something to work on, do that. I don't know. That's what I just think, you've got to grab blocks of time when you can.
I saw a thing once, I can't remember who it was, I think it might have been someone famous, but I don't remember. But anyway, I thought, what a genius idea. They did it in their hallway when their kids were in the bath. Personally, I'd want to make sure that I could watch him if he was that small. And, you're not talking babies here, we're talking, 7,
older
8,
kids.
9, whatever, older that is perfectly to be in the bath. But had an exercise bike in the hallway while they were in the bath.
Oh, that's a good...
And I was like, well, you could even do that in the the doorway of the bar.
Right,
room.
Where you could see them.
You could totally see them.
Yeah.
And they're in there for 15, 20 minutes or even longer, I don't know, whatever bath time is.
Right.
There's no reason why you couldn't be just sat there peddling away.
Yeah, yeah.
While they're having a splash.
Oh, we lost Sarah a bit there. Oh, no, we've lost Sarah completely. Oh, there she is. She's back again.
Am I back? Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. A little bit dodgy today. But yeah, you can keep a really good eye on them because you're in the room with them. That would be a perfect 15, 20 minutes where you can just sit cycling. I bought a good few years back now, but an exercise bike, not that expensively, from Amazon actually. But it's a fold-up one. It's not.
Oh yeah, right.
But you can move
easy
it,
to move,
and actually you could move it out of the bathroom easily again. And actually, if you're genuinely serious about making an impact on your health, I'm not suggesting I did do this, but I've now seen it since and thought that's a cracking idea. That would have worked really well.
Yeah.
Because what they want is a bit of chat time and it's a bit of downtime when they're having a bath, and so actually you could still be there chatting with them.
Yeah, so if you're serious, you'll make a way. No. Oh, ooh, creepy.
I think we've moved past that moment.
Hopefully you won't listen to this and be like, Mum.
For God's sake.
But it's how much do you want to do it, and snatching those moments of time. My mum was, I think, pretty amazing. She got half an hour for lunch, and in that time she would jump in her car, race to the store, grab some shopping, come back to work, and this is in Australia, so it's usually hot. She'd take everything that needed to be put in the fridge. She'd put it in, which was mostly stuff because we always ate fresh stuff, put it in the fridge, get it out at the end of the day. She finished at 5:30, come home, make dinner. I mean, there was no takeaway or frozen pizza or anything like that because she one, she couldn't afford it. She was lone parenting at home. Well, she was. My dad was absent, so she couldn't afford. Yeah, she couldn't afford to just go and grab some Chinese takeaway or whatever. But it was what she made was, we always had veggies. It was always nutritious, and then my sister and I would have to get in and clean up. I have photos of me standing on a chair from when I was really little, drying dishes up. And then, of course, when my sister moved out when she was 17, she went to college and moved away. Then it was all sort of, up to me. The last mouthful would get in your mouth, your last bite, and that was it, up cleaning the table. But I think, God, I used to be like, I'm hungry. And I look back and I think, wow, Mum, that was pretty amazing. It gets me sort of, choked up. But it set a really good example, I think, even though I didn't have kids. It set a good example. Plus, she used to get us to, we had to get in and clean and change. I ironed from when I was quite young. Because in Australia, like England, we wear school uniforms. Here in the States, they don't. But, I had to iron my uniform and iron, everything, my hankies and all that sort of stuff. Yep. And if I couldn't reach the seeing coach, I'd stood on a stool and all that sort of stuff. So we were doing things from when we were really young. But I know a lot of parents just think, and I can totally understand this, it's easier just to do it yourself than have to try and explain it to someone. I feel like that when I get someone to help me with my work. Sometimes it's just easier just to get it done, than have someone come in that's not used to working with you. That, you've got to keep stopping and telling them, and then you lose your train of thought or whatever you were doing. So I get why parents, don't want to do that, but I don't know.
I think multitasking is definitely, the main load, because you're sort of thinking, right, the washing's got to be on. We've got to be back out for whatever it might be, school disco at this time. There was a time when my son was finished school, went to an after-school club, and then there was a school disco all on the same night at the end of term. So I used to race home. Luckily, I only lived sort of 10 minutes drive away. Cook an evening, like a fish finger, chips and peas type dinner. Right. Put it on a plate, put tin foil over it, race back, pick him up from after school club, get him into the back of the car. He'd eat this dinner off this little plate because I'd put all the back seats down so he could sit on like a flat surface. Eat his dinner, that was a quick dinner, get changed in the back of the car, and then go into the school disco, which was literally 15 minutes later. Then I'd go home again and then come back an hour again later. But it meant that, from my point of view, he'd done after school club, which was like a drama club. He'd had a proper meal.
Right.
Thought, well, he's going to have to eat
and he got to go to the disco. And he got
to go to the disco because I didn't want him to miss out.
Right.
And so it's things like that. It's just that dashing around, and in that time I'd probably put a load of washing on, sorted the dog out, all of that sort of stuff. And just think, wow. And so that's when it's really hard to prioritise yourself.
Yes.
There's probably people screaming, going, well, why the hell did you bother? Why didn't you just give him an extra sandwich and he could have had that at the end of the day and then just picked him up after the school disco? That is all true.
Right.
I could have done that.
Or do the drive-through at McDonald's like so many people do. Yeah. No judgment.
But it's just, it was just, no, I mean, and quite honestly, hindsight's a wonderful thing. You look back and go, why didn't I?
Right.
Why didn't I? It wouldn't have done him any harm at all.
No.
But in that moment, I was like, no, I've got to try and do the best. And that's all you're trying to do is
the best. Yeah, that's what my mum said to me.
I saw, something once that said, there's not enough space to focus on everything in one go. So basically, you've got sort of your work, your sort of family relationships type pod, and then yourself. And only two of them really can be focused on at any one time, probably, because it's just too much of a load to try and do three. So if you're busy with work, and home life is always going to be busy in one way or another, you get dropped off the list.
Yeah.
And it is true, because when you start focusing on yourself, you're suddenly using more time than you would ever thought of. Go, well, what's going to give then?
Right.
So does my work take a back burner? Does, family life isn't likely to take a back burner?
It's always going to be yourself, isn't it? Always.
always going to be the thing that drops
Yeah.
off. And so I think you're right. It's trying to find clever ways of, weaving that in. And I think that, yes, getting up earlier, like we talked about when,
even if it's just 15 minutes, really.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the
absolutely.
thing. Nobody needs to put aside, unless they're batch cooking maybe or something, but, to get some exercise, just an extra 15 minutes. I used to
Yeah.
work with a lady. She was, this is when I first moved to Canada. I was food editor for a magazine and then did magazine and the cookbooks, and work with a design company. They used an external design company to do the magazine. And she had a couple of kids, and she said the only way that she can keep it together is if she does some cooking on the weekend and just pops it in the freezer. She said 2 hours, she knows what she's going to make. She's got everything there, and she does some stuff. So all she has to do then is just maybe throw a salad together, put a pot of pasta on or whatever. She's made stuff. And I thought, well, that's a good idea. And then for exercise, when the kids went to bed, she had a treadmill and she'd run on the treadmill for a while, just so she was doing something. And then she would shop at a time when her husband was there, and so she didn't have to take kids shopping. Not everybody has that. I mean, my mum didn't. You didn't. Yeah. So you just had to take them with you. But I think it's, maybe stealing those moments, and in those moments you have to make yourself a priority. I mean, it's so easy to put yourself top of the low priority list, and feel
and I
that
think,
sense of overwhelm.
It does, and I think it's picking moments, isn't it? I mean, it ebbs and flows through the year. So there seems to be busier times when the kids have a lot on, different ages as well. Things change dramatically when he got to secondary. I mean, he's at college now. We've moved well through that. But even at secondary was a different requirement to primary. It never stops. You always sort of think, oh, well, they won't need me as much now. Oh, God, they absolutely do. But they just need you for something different. It's a different. So now it's, we organise his work, as in physical job. He's got a job, part-time job, so it's working his schedule for that. His fitness, because he trains and he's a boxer, so if he's got a bout coming up, that's a massive requirement. Driving lessons, because he's at that age where he's just learning to drive. College work, then his social situation, he wants to be here, there, or whatever. So it doesn't stop, it just changes. But as they get older, you do get more freedom, and you do get more opportunity. So I can see that I have a lot more opportunity now than I ever did, 10 years ago, for example. But then, and as I said, and I'm sure that people that have someone at home that's dependent on them, whether it's elderly, whether it's someone with a disability, it's difficult because actually, potentially, there is no change to their situation. They're always required to be doing what they're doing at the same level. So there's an argument that parenting is even easier than perhaps some of those situations. I couldn't imagine, but there is no break unless you get someone that comes in as a respite situation. It's a constant care situation. Is a carer, for example, of a partner that's now needing care or something. It's just it's a massive load on you, and you do always then put yourself second.
Yes. And there's also the people too that have, like elderly parents, but their kids have had kids. So then they're caring for elderly parents and their grandkids too.
Yeah.
And, then I just like, massive overwhelm. And I think it comes down to being organised, really. Like you were saying, you'd run home, quickly cook a meal. And, I'm sure some people listening thinking, I'd never do that. Oh, that's fine. But I think that, all the things really that we have talked about in previous episodes, like being organised and routine, I think that they are so important in this, says the woman that doesn't have any kids. But I
think the other thing that happens is that, but when you do find those few moments to invest in yourself, whether it is exercise, whether it's to have chosen some food that you're going to have for the next day or week, whether it's even a nice bath that you've managed to get 15 minutes to have a nice hot bath, the mental impact on you is quite substantial as well, because actually all of a sudden you feel like a bit more of a person again, because what happens is you tend to lose your identity a little bit because you're so busy running around and you are so busy putting someone else first all the time.
Right.
You're a bit, you to yourself, you lose actually who you are a little bit. So I think it really gives you a boost when you do these things for yourselves, as well as the benefit of doing the exercise and eating well. Mentally, it really helps as well. It helps lessen the load a little bit, because actually what you've done is created a bit of a restack, because it's a bit like pain. I've had it described to me before. Pain generally doesn't get any worse. It's because it's a building block of pain that's sitting on top of the last one that you haven't locked back. So it feels like it's worse, but actually it's exactly the same amount of pain that your body's feeling. It's just because it hasn't coped with it.
Right.
And same with load, with parental load, dependent load, whatever. It's a building block. So all of a sudden you get to this breaking point where you're like, I can't do it anymore because I'm trying to iron and I've got someone asking me a question and there's something else happening. If you can just give yourself a reset for 10 minutes, all of a sudden you'll find your coping mechanism is a bit more equal again.
Right.
And that will
be
be
more zen.
Yeah, you can just suddenly go, you know what, I'm not going to snap as easily because I can keep my patience a little bit better. And we've all been there. We've all lost our patience and snapped at a time that you, as an adult or a parent, you stand back and go, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that. But what it was the final straw. But really, it was no more than it was this morning, the thing that was happening, whatever it might be.
Right.
But you've just got saturated, haven't you?
Right.
And you're exhausted.
Reached the limit. Yeah.
So that would be another tip, is if you can find 10 minutes for yourself, if you can make it something which is going to benefit you, like a bit of exercise or a food plan or something, that's great. But just find 10 minutes and you'll be amazed at what that can do for resetting.
Right. And then I think too is like saying no to things as well. Learning to say no. I think in that it's like setting limitations. But something that I'm sure that because we all do this as a parent or not, is comparing yourself to others as well.
Yeah.
Like someone, you go to a sporting event or whatever with your kid and you think, damn, she looks like she's got her shit together. And maybe she doesn't, but maybe, she's just, leaves things. Maybe she doesn't iron, or it's the outward perception. Seeing back in my mum's day, she didn't have that. Looking on Instagram and seeing the kids all dressed so perfectly on their perfect holiday and their that whole thing, and not knowing that maybe they have a nanny or someone comes in and somebody looks at that and thinks, oh, my house is not like that. Let's be real here. But I think that that's so important, is not to compare yourself to other
Fundamentally,
people.
I think the benchmarks for any of us in anything we do in life is, are they healthy? Are they happy? Are they basically cared for?
Are they alive?
Exactly. I've got through a day, a week, a year where we've succeeded,
right.
And just doing the best that you can. And for ourselves too, am I happy? Am I healthy? Am I safe and cared for? You're like, well, if I'm not happy and I'm not happy towards that, because have I disappeared again?
Oh no, you're good. You're back. Yeah, you did a little bit.
If I'm not happy and I'm not healthy, have I got a role to play in that? Because is it because I'm giving it all away to someone else?
Yeah.
Whether it's a partner, whether it's a child, whether it's a parent, friends. Friends often have a massive requirement on us too, don't they? Because they might be going through a tough time, and you want to give that support, and you suddenly think, Jesus, how am I going to fit that into my day? Right. But it's really important because you want to give that support and stuff like that. So I think that you've got to then put yourself at least as a chunk into that list. Even if you're not top of it, at least give yourself a chunk. And then that's a successful time, isn't it? But it's funny because...
No, go on. I was going to say, what I've started doing, because I parent a dog who's a very good little dog, but he likes to dilly-dally when he's outside, when it's not snowing and freezing. And so I've started to do squats out using the railing. And I thought, because I don't just let him out and then shut the door and come back inside because, even though our yard is fenced in, if we get deliveries, which I'm often getting, and they open the gate and, could let him out, da-da-da. So I go out there with him and I'm like, oh, for the love of God, will you hurry up? He just dilly-dallies. So I thought, okay, I'm going to, when I was recovering from having my knees replaced, I would sit and do some exercises for them because there's a bench just outside the door. But now I've taken to doing squats using the railing. And I've been doing this for about, a week or so now. And I'm feeling it. But that's what I do. I just keep going.
You think that people look at you and think that you're trying to show how to squat to do
nobody could see, except I guess our neighbours could sometimes. But, nobody could really see, which is good. But, yeah, I just grabbing moments of time. But do you think that, you were talking about focusing on like one or two things? Because for me, even just being busy in my day-to-day, with work and household things and all the rest of it, it's that whole overwhelm. I was feeling this yesterday. I was kind of a bit panicked, thinking, oh God, I've got this to do and I've got that to do. And I thought, oh, for the love of God, woman, just focus on one thing, just one thing. Yeah. And that's, all you need to do, whether that was, spending 15 minutes on the treadmill or getting a recipe tested or whatever. Just one thing on your list. Just do that. And that's, I don't know, I find lists are good too.
The tip that you gave us last week about this sort of chunking down an hour into 50 minutes of doing and 10 minutes then giving the opportunity, that has been a bit of a game changer.
Oh my God, it's so good.
So last weekend, I didn't really plan out my whole day, but I knew that I had to bath the dogs. So my littlest sausage dog, she looks like, oh bless her, she's losing a little bit of fur. So we're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. They think it might be a hormonal thing where she was spayed earlier last year. Anyway,
she is so cute. You should put a photo of her.
Oh, she's
so cute.
She's also the brightest little. If anyone's got a Dachshund, then they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They are so bright.
Are they really? Okay, I didn't know that. Huh.
So they look at you and you're like, oh, I'm done for here, because she knows exactly what it is that you're trying to get her to do. Anyway, they've been out, they've done their business, that was all fine.
Oh.
She'd only done I'm going to tell the story.
Oh, okay, yeah, good.
Yeah. So they've been out, they've done the business, but she'd only had a wee. I was like, oh, that's fine, because again, toileting Dachshunds is not the easiest because they don't like to go outside if it's cold, it's wet, foggy. Basically, they're not that keen. So
they've just got those short little legs too. They'd get.
I know, their belly touches the morning.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's been a long journey with her toileting, and we're making massive progress. So that was all good. So in we come. And I've got my other dog who's lush. He's a little miniature schnauzer, a Sid. He's all fluffy. I've got him in the massive butler sink, bathing him. She starts making a noise and like this. I was like, oh, right, hang on a minute, because she's really jealous. And I thought she was just kicking off. So I give her a biscuit and give him a biscuit because he's not keen on the whole haircut bathing thing either. Finished doing that, I turned to my right and I'm like, oh God, I had my slippers on, but what she'd done is a great big poo right next to my right foot, right? So that was what the complaint was about. Bless her, I didn't realise I ignored her. I thought she was just meant she needed to go.
That's too funny.
So I stood in it and I was like, oh, and before I think I would have really lost my rag. So I'm like, oh my God, I've got a million things to do and now I've got to
right.
off the floor. And I was like, it's okay, because I've got a block of time and it's allocated. And it's fine. So how this time gets used, it doesn't matter. I'm still...
Even if it is cleaning up dog shit.
Even if it is a Saturday morning cleaning up dog shit off the floor. So there I am going, okay, never mind. So Sid's been washed, blow-dried, all that sort of thing. He's now on the floor. I clear up all the floor and it's like, right, Lucy, your turn. So she wasn't very keen on the bath, but on goes a medicated shampoo, do all of that. That's fine. And their bedroom is in the sort of cloakroom utility room in my cottage. So it's their bedroom.
Their bedroom, yeah.
So I blow dried her as well, and that was all fine. And I was like, right, I need to go for a pee myself now before we then go out. So I was going to take them out because I know that they often need to go back out again afterwards. bearing in mind, I've cleaned my slippers, so I've got bare feet now because the slipper's now been washed and drying. And as I walk to go to the toilet, I stand in another fresh, loopy poo on the floor.
Oh my God.
Barefoot, Lovoni. So I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, that is so gross. Oh, I can smell it. That is so gross.
And I'm like, now what do I do? Because I've got dog poo on my foot.
Oh.
Into the floor.
If you
I
walk.
Really need a wee.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. Put your foot in the toilet.
It's like, oh my God. And I can bend over with my heel, but I'm not brilliant at getting to the actual floor yet. I can get near, I can touch the floor, but
God.
It's a real effort for getting. I was like, oh, for God's sake. So getting my socks on is not that easy. But anyway, so I had to clean my foot, clean the floor, flipping heck. But anyway, we got there. But I did think to myself, well, I coped with that quite well. But I think the reason I coped with it quite well is because it's still in my chunk of time.
Right.
If I then thought, bloody hell, I'm supposed to be taking Henry to wherever in 10 minutes, and because if I cut time too short, that's what creates stress.
Yeah.
So if I tried to squash that job into time that I didn't really have, it would have been so stressful.
But you allocated the time to do that.
Because happen that you can never anticipate, like dog crap on the floor.
No, that is gross. In bare feet.
It is totally gross. Anyway, it's all right, everyone. I disinfected my feet. I was fine.
And the floor.
And the floor and her, and I was like, ugh. But I think that's another learning, is to try not to squash too much into too short a time, because it just makes everything so
well, that's
stressful.
setting unrealistic goals, isn't it?
Yeah,
that comes down to that.
It's fabulous how everything slots in. So yes, it's allowing amount of time. It's using the technique that you talked about, the 50 and the 10 minutes within your hour. It's also then, because decluttering and organised, because I'd decluttered that space in the utility room, the butler sink was clear, I had the dog shampoo there, I had everything that I needed was there.
Right.
So I wasn't then thinking, oh dear God, how am I now going to clear this up? How am I going to, because I had it all there, because it had been clear and I cleared out. So
organised.
Nothing in life is going to be perfect.
Nope.
It's just not. But if you can make it as organised as you can be, because you've cleared out things, you've created time space for yourself, you've created mental space for yourself, it does make a difference.
And and just starting small with that. It's not like you went and did all of that all at once, or me doing it all at once.
The utility room's not clear. It just meant the bits that I was going to be then using in that space
were all there, and you knew where they were. Yeah, absolutely. I find doing that whole block of time thing, and as a parent, I don't know how well that would work. If they're at school or whatever, probably great. But knowing that this is what I want to get done in that 50 minutes makes me work harder. I won't pick up my phone and check my email or, what was that text message. I'm like, nope, this is my 50 minutes. Yep. I'll do that during my 10 minutes, after this.
I think it would have helped back in the day when my son, homework was the bane of our life. He
hated to do it.
Well, he finds it very hard to sit still and to focus.
Right, sounds like me.
And so we used to get around it, even though it really doesn't play to my strengths, because I think I'm at the other end of the line to him, so I need to be sat completely still, focus on one thing, get it done. He needs to be moving all of the time, and we're just opposites from that point of view. But I got one of those huge, I think people use them for pregnancy, when you sit on and you can bounce those great big balls, ball things. So he used to sit at the kitchen table on one of those, bouncing, and then slightly bounce, and I'd be like, I'm going to lose my bloody shit in a minute, because I was like,
you could see the movement.
Can you just sit still? And he's like, do it like this. And then I'm thinking, like, Sarah, this is how he gets through it. Just let it go. But there were times when I'd snap, just go, right, that is it. Just sit still.
Right.
Get this done. But what I was going to say is, I think that it would have been a good technique, which I didn't do, but maybe it's worth recommending to people that are struggling, is to do that for them when they're doing their homework. Set this 50-minute block of going, right, you need to focus, get it done in these 15 minutes, and then you've got 10 minutes when you can go and do exactly what you want, and play with your Lego.
That's a great idea.
Put the football around, get a drink, And then after that, Henry, we're then going to go and get our bath before bed or whatever it might be. But I think that would have been really focused, because we would spend about 3 hours doing homework, 2.5 hours of which we're discussing, are we actually going to get this started? And the last half an hour, we would actually get stuff delivered and get it done. But it's such a drain, because it's really massively time consuming every day to get this work done. And I never did it for him. He just needed someone there to help prompt him, work things out a bit of company. That's the other thing when you're solo parenting. It's the quiet home, and he hasn't got any siblings here. So it was,
that sounds kind of quiet. That sounds good. Instead of 4 kids fighting.
Yeah, but you say that, but then everything is on you.
Yeah.
You're the one that's got to be there to do
entertainment
the
factor.
Exactly, or the sort of stimulating, or the challenge, or the support, or it is all on you.
Right.
And as much as we've created a fabulous close relationship, there is, hands up, you give up a lot as a parent to do that. Every parent does give up a lot.
Right.
But, in that situation, I couldn't go and play with your brother or sister for half an hour while I go and do whatever. It's all on you. So, everyone's got their own story and how it works. But I think as a tip, I would definitely recommend giving that a try for homework for people that are struggling.
Yeah, the blocks of time.
Yeah, good idea.
And I mean, I'm sure people do it, get organised the night before. I don't know. I think that makes a huge difference to the next day, even if it's just getting bowls out for cereal or fruit or whatever, or having things there at the ready so you can just grab them, know where they are. Because I'm
especially
sure...
the uniform or the clothes things. It's like we spoke about last week when I had this big pile, and I'm like, where are my boxes? I'm like,
get stuff out. Yeah, get stuff out the night before.
Got baskets, or before I used to then have them exactly that, have it. I knew it was ironed, I knew it was ready, or even if it was just on the dryer, I knew exactly where it was.
Right.
So that it was a case of just lifting it and then saying, right, there's your clothes to get ready and all that sort of stuff. So yes, I think prep is definitely a top tip of whatever that might be.
Whether that's meals or clothes and meals, I think are the two big things, aren't they?
Clothes,
just trying to find
bags,
stuff.
Get bags ready. Sports bags, school bags, all of that stuff. Get all of that ready. So in the morning, really, they've just got to stick their shoes on, their coat on, and then go. And
then, another thing we were saying too is, maybe trying to get up just even 10 minutes earlier, just to have that time for yourself, because 10 minutes or 15 minutes of doing some form of exercise is better than nothing.
Have a little bit of exercise and have a coffee and go, right, now I can start my day.
Right, yeah.
You almost like sort of steel yourself and go, right, come on then, you're going into the battlefield, here we go. Here I go.
Oh, gosh.
And it's that, as I said, that unspoken mental load is there's a lot on you as a parent, potentially just a woman. I don't know whether that's fair or not, but it's thinking through those extra things that you're carrying around, this mental load all the time without even really giving it any recognition. You're always thinking through, like, God, what's for dinner, what time I've got to pick them up, all of those things, while you're trying to do your working day, for goodness sake, while you're trying to actually carry out a proper, a job.
Right.
It's 2 jobs. You've got a job, a home, because that's a full-time job trying to do that. And that's the difference in some generations, isn't it? In generations gone by, there was predominantly the woman, but someone at home doing that job, because it's a full-time job, looking after the house, the children, the food, all of that stuff. Now we're doing that as well as going out to work. And so it's a massive difference, a massive requirement on a woman or whoever the main person is that's doing the caring in the home.
My husband raised 4 kids. And he said they would, on some days, each one of them would have like a sporting event or training or whatever to go to. And he said they were all in opposite directions. But he used to stop and buy groceries on the way home from work, come home, make their dinner, and he says to me, well, you wouldn't necessarily approved because, might have used a packet or something. And I'm like, well, no, that's not the case at all. He still threw some fresh stuff in there. But, those kids still remember things that Dad made, especially his daughter. She will, still talks about, I used to love that when you made, like your chicken enchiladas or, just various things he's made. And they remember that. And I think, that's really nice. But, he would do that and then clean out the chicken's coop and like, oh my God, how do you do it? And then I freak out when I'm away or on location and he's looking after our dog or takes our little dog to work. I'm like, be really careful, do this and do that. And then I say, oh, sorry, you managed to raise 4 kids and they're all still alive. So, I'll just retract my statement.
Adults, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, what are we chatting about next week? Is that relationships?
I think actually I think that would be a good topic following on from this. Actually, let's talk about relationships, and it might be a chunky topic, so we might have to perhaps split it into two
parts.
I think there's the relationship with yourself and relationships outside of that. So whether that's sort of marital or partner relationships, friendships, families. I think there's a lot to talk about with relationships.
Right, and how the whole weight thing. And how you feel about yourself. I think to start with, and it's going to be probably the relationship we have with ourselves. I think we should start there.
Okay.
Because mine's pretty shit, I think, but I am working on it. I am a work in progress. So, and I think that how your relationship is with yourself, then, and how you think about yourself, then, trickles through to all the other relationships that you have in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's for next week. Now, for those that don't know that are on Instagram, make sure that you go and give us a follow, the Waiting Room Podcast. We're on Instagram. And I am in the process of starting a Facebook page up, so I'll give that to you next week. Okay. We need to chat about what are your goals for this coming week. What are you doing?
I'm changed my focus, Lovoni, and it's suddenly kicked in for this week for me. So I'm going to absolutely follow this through next week. I think all the things we've talked about before with regards to intent and what you're doing and routine and mindset have suddenly started to click in. And this is exactly what's happened with parenting. I went with my son to a boxing event at the weekend. He wasn't competing, but we went to support his local club. And it was a much younger age group than him, which is why I wasn't competing. But there were young kids there from 11 to 15 boxing and competing. And I looked at them and thought, oh my God, they are willing to commit to the work that needs to be done to be in that ring. It's a massive thing to be in that ring competing, and their fitness, and I could see how fit and strong they were. And that is because they have decided that that's what they're going to do.
Right.
And I suddenly had this thing wash over going, have I truly decided that that's what I'm doing? Am I
making the commitment?
Am I just doing this and then I'll do that? And I think all of the things we talked about fell into place a bit for me. And I go, and that is all made at the moment with this umbrella of I need to decide that this is what I'm doing.
Right.
That is what
that's the intention that you talked about.
My God, exactly. And my God, has it changed this week?
Wow, that's good.
Really, really noticed the difference. So next week, my intention, my goal is I'm going to be for a whole week, make that decision every single day, and let's just see what happens at the end of that week, because I can see what's happened this week. I'm different already after just where are we now? So that was Sunday, so 4 days.
Right.
Massively different already.
Oh, I'm stealing that. That's going to be my goal. Can that be my goal too? Along with still drawing my numbers out of the jar to purge.
Yeah, I'll still be doing the decluttering. I'll still be doing the routine and all of that sort of stuff. But it's funny that all happens because I have decided.
Right. Decided on a commitment. And mine is yes, I'm stealing that. So I've decided, I've got the intent, and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm not just going to do it for a day. So every day for that week. And like you said, and see how you felt great. So that's what I'm going to do. Make it conscious and persevere for starters, and commit to myself and commit to doing that. And
you decide. What I've experienced these last 4 days is your decisions are so much, your small decisions are so much easier.
Right.
Because I have decided. I'm not like, well, am I going to do that?
Half-hearted.
This
is like
it doesn't.
all
I don't
in.
have a decision to make because I have already decided.
Right.
So I have decided that I'm going to eat particular sort of nutritious food and how I'm going to manage that. I've decided what exercise I need to do to make a difference. I've decided all of these things, and it's just fallen into place, as well as even just the small amount of space that I've created because the decluttering that needs to still be happening. But it's a well-being situation. But over all of that, I've decided I'm going to have a whole week next week.
Oh, that's what I'm going to do. Well, I'm going to check in and see if you're doing that. What well, you will be because you've decided to do it. But you need you need to check in with me. What are you cooking this week? Are you cooking anything fab that I need to know about?
This week I've done some very similar meals, but I'll do some more next week. So I'm enjoying. I've done some salmon in a little tin foil sort of parcel with fresh lemon slices and chili flakes, and then just put that in the oven. So really fresh, really clean. And I've done it with. I'll change it up. Lots of different vegetables. I had purple sprouting. I've had asparagus. Some fresh, what rainbow carrots? Is that what you call them?
The different,
yeah, those. I had some last night. It was just a pack, but winter grains. So I put that on the side of it, and it was delicious.
Oh, nice!
I think just different pulses and things. So I'm going to do more of that next week because I know what I'm having. And I've been having chicken salads and I've been having eggs for breakfast. So I've been eating really well. Yeah, really well. So
that's awesome.
More of that for me. What about you?
I have decided in all this simplifying thing, with the paring down and the trying to be more minimalistic, that I'm going to do the same thing with my recipes. Okay. So that was something that I decided yesterday. Just to make them more simple, not so many ingredients, which is hard to do. It's easy to put lots of ingredients in a recipe. So, maybe not more than 10, which you think, well, that even sounds like a lot. But, so 10, just simple, whether it's throwing in a slow cook or whatever. I did do the marinated eggs, which Sarah, when I mentioned them, Sarah's like, marinated eggs, I've never heard of that.
I know.
And then, but they were so good. So they'll be on the my website, just in some soy and ginger. And then what I did was cook some rice, chopped up cucumber, radish, some green onion, and then I just made little bowls, marinated egg bowls.
Well, as soon as you've got that recipe up, I will be doing that. That's my commitment for next week. I'm going to be doing that because I am so fascinated to give this a try, this marinated eggs. Like that.
Well, they don't look very pretty because they've got that brown,
that's okay.
But but they're delicious. So there's that. So I made those. I made a pork and mushroom ragu, which was so simple, but completely delicious. And I'm doing coming up next week, I'm going to do like a one-pan fajita tacos, if that even makes sense. So it's not fajitas because I'm not doing the whole sizzling pan to the table thing.
No.
But it's all those fajita flavors with the onion and the peppers and chicken.
Lovoni, that's very Mexican. Are you sure?
I know, right? You'd think I'd be. I finished testing the Mexican recipe. Yes, I am in a week or so. I am going to be food styling it, but that's okay because I have someone quite fabulous. She makes the food, and then I put it together, and somebody else takes a photo of it. So, so I'm doing something like that, which is a one pan thing. It's got some cheese on it, some coriander, cilantro, and then you can get your warm tortillas and put it in that if you want. Oh, and it's got this really good avocado sauce that you just whiz up in a little blender. Delish. So that's coming up. Okay. Yeah. And last night I made Thai veggies. What else are you doing?
I'm doing a bit of self-care this afternoon. I'm going to get my hair sorted out.
Sarah's running her fingers through her hair at the moment. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's silver that's shining away just to remind me that I'm going to be 47 in a couple of months.
Right.
Like, woo! So, I am really, really busy with work. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go and get that done. So this afternoon, so I might even share, if if I don't look too silly.
Oh yeah, so please do.
The process.
Oh, good for you. Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that this afternoon.
Yeah, that's good. That always makes you feel good, right? Doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you subscribe to us on your favourite podcast. I like calling it that, podcast. Podcast platform. It's because I'm trying to say those two words.
It's a platform.
But thanks for listening.
See you next week. Bye.